We're going live right now.
Oh,
Hi, guys. Welcome to season 4, episode 1 of The Writer's Journey. I'm your host, Lauren Moore, and with me is the incredible Kalene Williams and the inestimable, irrepressible, ineffable. Enough of those ins and ables. It is Ellen Campbell. And we're back and we're excited to see everyone, excited to see each other and talk about what's been going on in our life and in editing and in the publishing world. Got some news this week that we can talk about. Brandon Sanderson's big Kickstarter and just kind of catch up. So, hi everyone, we missed you. Go ahead and if you want to tell us what you've been up to, we'll pop in the chat and we'll say hi. And you got any questions, we'll answer those too. Josh Hayes is fanboying over there in Kansas.
Aww.
Hello.
Hi,
and
Josh.
we've got Ken Britz and Corey.
Well, thanks a lot, Ken.
And Patricia. And Rick Partlow out in the wilds of Wyoming. He's also been enjoying some music on the internet. But yeah. So hey everyone, how's everyone been?
Surviving.
Yeah,
that's pretty much what I've been doing. As I sound completely like myself. I've been like off and on sick for like a month and a half now. Like there was 2 weeks where I was good, and then the last week, not been good. My mom's not any better, but we're hanging in there, and I'm here, and it's good stuff. Editing, I basically sleep. I wake up, take my daughter to school, I edit, pick her up, I edit more, I go to sleep. That's all I do. That's my life.
I just want to wrap you up in a big blanket and like pour you some tea and get you to drink.
I have been drinking tasty. Lots of tea. All the medicine, all the tea. Yeah.
And a cool washcloth for your little forehead.
I don't see, like, I can't do the cold. If I get too cold, it's like it gets in my bones and I start shaking uncontrollably. Like what was this? Just a couple days ago, I had to turn the shower on and I just sat in the bathroom while the steam was going because I couldn't get warm.
Look for some manuscripts for you to warm your feet over.
Yeah.
Burning manuscripts. We can light them on fire.
Yes.
What
about
and
y'all?
Then they'll rise from the ashes after the edits, a new phoenix to go onto the internet and take over Amazon by storm.
It's good. It's good stuff.
Ellen, what have you been up to? What phoenixes have you been addressing?
It's more like dragons that I haven't been slaying. My life is kind of more of the same at this point. I'm in construction limbo, and it looks like I'm going to be here for a couple of years, trying to wrap my head around that. I have dogs. I love them. We do things.
We love them too. All your posts on Facebook. I look forward to seeing them. And
I got news about Dexter though. But
oh no.
I'm not going to spill it here. It's got to go on Facebook because Dexter has a lot of fans.
Okay. All right. So if you're out there on the podcast, I'm sorry. You're going to have to go to our Facebook page and check out what Dexter has been up to. But we love him and there'll be pictures of him. So that'll make it all worth it.
It will.
We have a new family member. His name is Mardu, and he's a giant golden doodle. And he is just the most wonderful flump. He loves to play. He loves to chew. He loves to be my little editing assistant. And I hope one day we can have a dog party together and get all the doggies to meet. Because Kalene, you've got a puppers too, right?
Yeah, but she's like 13 and blind, and her hips are going out. I have to help her in and out of the, because there's like a little step to get to the backyard. So I have to help her to get in and out. Otherwise her hips just like, she's trying to go potty and she'll just like fall onto her back.
So we'll keep her in a very safe place when we have the doggy meetup.
But she's still happy, and still loves to play. She's just, her legs are giving out.
Kalene, everyone wants you to feel better. Patricia says hugs. Hope you feel better soon.
Yeah, I like Ken's comment. Where was it? Kalene sounds like she's seen things you don't want to know. I have seen things. I have been editing a lot of things, and some of them, there's some doozies. There's some doozies in there.
feel like Groundhog Day
Day.
a little bit
Maybe.
with the manuscripts and life and editing sometimes?
It's good though. You know, overall, things are good. They're getting back to better. I wouldn't say they're totally better, but they're getting back to better. So I can't complain. Not completely.
Well, we love you and get better soon. And hugs across the internet.
Yes, from Leo.
Oh.
I love you.
All right. So in editing news in our editing spheres, my little bit of news is I've been editing full time with Galaxy's Edge. They're starting their own publishing press and they're bringing on new authors to start their own new series. So I've been working with them. I did a project with Podium, which was very exciting early in the year. But now I'll be working with Galaxy's Edge full time. So I'm excited about that. I'm on a series written by Doc Spears. He's a legend in the Special Forces world, and he now coaches Special Forces and operators. He trains them in tactics and techniques, and he brings a lot of that real world details into his novel. And he's working on his 7th and 8th book. I think we're editing now. He's written a lot, and he just has grown by leaps and bounds as a writer. And I'm just so excited to see where these stories will go next. That's what I've been working on, and just kind of tackling those manuscripts a little bit at a time. And Kalene, you've got some exciting news too. You've been working with a fun publisher.
Oh yeah, so like I'm officially officialized. How would you say that? I'm officially officialized with Aethon. So me and Aethon are like we're buddies now, and
you're on the team.
I am officially on the team. My face is on the website and everything. I saw that when it popped up, and I was like, "Oh, I'm a part of you guys now." You're not getting rid of me. No, but no, but for any clients that I currently have, I am not dropping you. You can still come to me for edits. But as far as thank you for reminding me, that's probably a good thing to mention. For any new clients, that is a hard 50-50 on whether or not I will be taking any new clients, because my number is Aethon now, and they've got lots of manuscripts. I'm basically like, I'm bored. Like, here's a manuscript. 4 days later, I'm bored again. Here's another manuscript. So they keep me busy.
Yeah, Barda today says Kalene is the only editor for me.
Oh, thank you. I've how many have I done? Like just this month, I think I've done like 7 manuscripts so far. So, sickness don't keep me down.
In March or in February?
February. Sorry, February. Yeah, no, we are in March, aren't we? Yeah.
Well done, you.
Yeah. And Kalene, Rick suggests the word officiated.
Officiated. I like it.
So for new editors or people who want to get into the editing field out there, how long did it take you to get officiated at Aethon?
Well, I was already freelance editing for like 3-4 years, and that was like a slow churning cog, because when you very first start editing, people have a hard time wanting to take a chance on you, because for one, they don't want to waste their time. They don't want to waste their money. So you got to keep your prices cheap, but you also have to prove that you're worth more than what they're paying. So that in the end, you can start charging more as you get more people under, your belt, as it were, but in a good way, not a bad way. Sorry, that was a bad joke. And I started to officially work with them last year. Not officially, I was getting manuscripts from them last year. And over the course of that year, my speed started picking up. Their authors were consistently pleased with what I was producing. And from there, Rhett reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, so how about we just make this official?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, let's do that." And I'm such a great negotiator. I even locked in an Aethon beanie. So that should be on its way.
Yes.
Yeah.
When it gets there, we need to see it. And yeah.
But yeah, if you're looking to like with Lauren and me, you know, we're becoming affiliated with official indie publishers, you know, publishing houses. Just keep going at it. Keep your eyes open and be realistic on your time. Because if you tell someone that you can do it in a week and it takes you a month, you're going to lose credibility. So that's like, even for my authors, when I'm like, okay, well, I have openings on time A and time B. Which one do you think you can get it done? And they're like, well, I could probably get it done at A. I'm like, I'm going to sign you up for B. Because if you think you can get it done in a week, you know, give yourself 9, 10, 14 days. Because you can be early, but it creates a bottleneck if you're late.
Yeah. I think that's good advice, especially to the newbies out there. You really want to impress this potential client, so you might underestimate how long it would take you to do, or underestimate how much you think it'll cost you in terms of time. So you might give them a lower rate, but then that can cause problems down the line. The author really wants to know like how long it'll actually take. They don't want to hear a certain number, well, unless they've got a deadline, then they might want to hear a certain number. But they really want to know, like, what's the actual time frame here? What can I expect, so that I can make decisions in a month or a month and a half about cover and about putting it up on Amazon. So they need to know the truth from you. So it might be better to kind of like overestimate. If you think it'll take you 6 weeks, maybe say 8, just so that there's a little bit of wiggle room, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to figure out how long it'll take you to do these projects.
Yeah, and I mean, I can do like 250,000 words in 7 days, 5 to 7 days, depending on the manuscript. Because some are, like you're saying, they're a little harder. Some you could just kind of like breeze through. It's like the edits are just do. Other ones you're staring. You're just like, what is this trying to tell me? But it took me 4 years to get to that speed, you know. And I was working a day job when I first started, so 100,000 words would take me a month and a half, and now I'm doing 250 in a week. So don't beat yourself for going too slow. Just be realistic on your speed, and people will line things up accordingly. Lexi Price, what type of editing? I do line and developmental. So that's going in and making sure everything sounds good, making sure it's concise, that what you're trying to say is what you're saying, you know, word choice, word usage, repetitiveness, cutting that out. If there's stuff missing, if there's too much of something, all that good stuff.
But the real veteran editor on the panel is Ellen. Ellen, what have you been up to in editing?
I'm also doing some work for Aethon, and a couple of my old-time clients are still hanging around. Unlike Kalene, I have not sped up. I did my speed up thing, and then I slowed down. And I think that's probably normal. As you do it longer, you start to catch things that you didn't catch before, and you slow down. It's just not a whole lot. I mean, my life is kind of in upheaval at the moment, but yeah, editing is my first love, and that's what I want to do and where I want to be. And if everybody else would just cooperate, it would all be great.
Yeah, recently you've been editing emails to contractors and to
lawyers, and
like City Hall.
And City Hall, yeah. It's been kind of it's just been a mess. I'm sorry. I've just been a mess, and
that's okay.
Like, I love my dogs. I know I said that before. No, I'm just trying to keep it together. My father hasn't been well, and there's stuff going on that way too, and so I'm doing the best that I can. I also lost a humongous amount of work when we had a storm about 8 days ago.
Oh no.
I mean,
Took out
my
your
computer, took out my work.
Oh no.
Took out. So that wasn't fun.
I would cry.
Wow.
I did cry
Yeah.
more than once.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
hey,
I felt that in my heart.
it's a new year.
I know, but Kalene, this is what we grew up on. Remember back in the day when you have to like keep on clicking save because otherwise your computer might shut down and you lost everything.
Blue screen of death.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Had a few of those.
So a storm.
Yeah.
Wiped.
A power surge.
Oh no.
Yeah, and see, you can back up as much as you can, but sometimes fate's just gonna get you. It's gonna smack you around, chew you up, spit you out.
I was going to say fate saved me from some egregious error that I must have made in there or something. So
these are the wrong edits. These are not the edits that you were looking for.
Yeah.
Barda today says prayers for you and your family, Ellen, and for your health, Kalene. Yes, we are praying for
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
So what can you do? It's terribly stressing to lose work that you've done. But I know that along the way, over the years, you've learned ways to make your editing faster or pick up tools to help you save time or to save money. And we were thinking of talking about some of those tools that we've come across that can help authors on their end get their manuscript ready for an edit, or if they've got a low budget and they know they need to edit themselves before they get to Amazon, there are tools that are available to kind of help them to take some steps. So what are some tools, ladies, that you've used that you've come across lately, or that you could suggest to editors out there or to authors out there?
The only one that I use routinely is PerfectIt, because I get mad when the computer does something, or when the program is dumb. As far as editing software goes, I look at everything that comes out and see what it does, and I think that Pro Writing Aid is still the best one on the market if you need to use editing software. It gives you the most bang for your buck. It offers the most comprehensive insight into what you're writing. And that's been my favorite for years to recommend to people that ask me.
What's the difference between PerfectIt and Pro Writing Aid? I know we've had them on the show, so if you're in the audience and you want to know more about that, you can check our backlist. We've gotten interviews from both PerfectIt and Pro Writing Aid people on here, and also not Grammarly.
I don't think Grammarly.
Pro Writing Aid is actually editing software. It will talk about your sentence length and where your peaks and troughs are in terms of the plot points and things like that. PerfectIt just makes sure that you spelled Kawanda the same way every time and your hyphens are in the right place.
Yeah.
Which is huge. That's a lot of our time is spent doing that.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, let's like a backup. Okay. And in 150,000 words, you use the combination of backup twice. Once without a hyphen and once with a hyphen. I am not going to remember in 150,000 words if the first built up, if it was even there to begin with, if it had a hyphen or not a hyphen. So PerfectIt will dig those out and be like, you have hyphen built up on page 3 and you have non-hyphen built up on page 84. Well, and then you can then decide, it'll show you in the sentence like, no, yeah, that one does need the hyphen. That one does not need the hyphen. But there is the occasion where
even better now, the PerfectIt is affiliated with the Chicago Manual of Style, and you will get CMOS citations for why this is right and why this is not right, and why you should change all of them or not change all of them or whatever. Now, so you're actually not just being consistent, you're also being correct.
Is PerfectIt spelling also connected with Merriam-Webster? Because that's like 30% of my job is checking stuff like what Kalene just said with built up. That one might be like the noun might be hyphenated and then the verb might be unhyphenated.
Right.
And that's like 30% of my time right there is checking, clicking back and forth between Merriam-Webster and the manuscript. Does PerfectIt check that too?
It does check that, but I don't know that it checks it with, it's not affiliated with Merriam-Webster to my knowledge, but it's not ever been wrong. CMOS knows when it's supposed to be closed and open. And
okay, good.
So you still have to use your brain. And sometimes like you get, I mean, because you can like create like what you want it to check for, because there's certain things that I don't want it to check for because those are never going to change. Just certain, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but there's certain things that I've clicked off to not check. But like there could be 167 uses one way and 329 uses another way. And that can be like, let's say it's a word combination, and the first word is capitalized and the second word is not. And then the second use, both of them are capitalized. It'll pull all of those and be like, is this correct? Should they all be capitalized? What's going on here? So you still have to like go through each one. And sometimes, yeah, the dashes, the not dashes, sometimes there's just not a dash because of the inflection of the sentence that you're building. So you have to be able to read and know and deduce which one is the correct one. But the fact that it pulls everything into a single space, that you're not having to scroll and be like, okay, wait, on page 2 I had the built up, and then I'm on page 179. I'm going to forget by the time I'm on 179 whether or not. So it's a nice double check, and I like it.
Right. Without PerfectIt, I'll use Word's find and replace feature. And you can do a replace all to make sure that the punctuation or the hyphenation is correct. Or you can do check next. And then you click check next, check next, check next. And it could be 300 times. Like if it's a fantasy novel and it's a fantasy name or a fantasy place, that you're checking through, and you have to check each one to make sure they're right. So if it's a grammar thing, yeah, you might want to double check that. But if it's just a spelling thing, then you might be able to do find and replace all, which saves you time. But you're saying that with PerfectIt, it kind of lists it right there, so you can just kind of see it in one spot.
It's all listed there, and then you can just hit fix all. Like if it's definitely a word where you're like, this is definitely always going to be capitalized, and there's 3 out of the 400 uses that are not capitalized, and they're supposed to be, you can just be fix all, and it'll just fix it.
And then Ellen, how's Pro Writing Aid's grammar suggestions in your experience? And when in the editing process do you use does Pro Writing Aid come into play?
They're better than Grammarly. It's like I said, I don't use it regularly. I don't even own it anymore. It's better than Grammarly. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. Sometimes you just need human judgment. It'll tell you a lot if you're using the wrong tense, or what am I trying to say, Lauren? Help me out. I'm trying to say, if you're using a subjective, or
yes.
Yeah.
And
that's good.
It can flag those things.
Right. It flags a lot of things, and it actually flags your most used words, much like my list. Turns out to be my list very much of the time. So
of like crutch words.
Yeah, crutch words. Yeah.
Oh, speaking of crutch words, I have to get this off my chest. My authors, I love you. I love you guys so much. But for the love of all sanity, the characters, please, no more blinks and pauses. Okay? She blinked, he blinked, they paused, everyone's blinking and pausing. Every single manuscript I have had in the last 4 months has been he blinked, she paused and blinked, and then dialogue, and he paused in the middle of the dialogue and then blinked. I don't want to see any more blinking or pausing. Just get to it.
Or hesitating or turning.
I would rather have a hesitating than a pause at this point.
Coughing, because you want to get everyone's attention, so you cough.
Sitting, standing, looking, staring, grimacing, grinning.
But specifically, yes.
So what do you do instead? Where do you think the impulse comes from? Because I get that impulse too when I'm writing. I'm like, I need to talk about their eye contact. So where does this impulse come from, and what should you do instead?
You feel somewhere in your head you got it wedged in there somehow that you had to transition in some manner from this to that, and you gratefully fell upon She looked at him. He looked at her. They looked at each other. She looked out the window. Pause, hesitate, nod. But you don't. You don't actually stop it, Ken. You don't actually have to. Every time you don't have to have an action. You don't have to have an action beat every time.
Us.
It's just not necessary. Have some dialogue. People speak in paragraphs, not sentences. There doesn't have to be a tag after every sentence or a beat after every sentence.
My big thing is there's dialogue going on, right? There's the dialogue, and then she blinked, and then she has dialogue, and then there's dialogue, and he paused for a moment, continues his dialogue. I don't care that the only thing you're doing with the he paused for a moment, you know what the pause is? The time it takes for us, the reader, to read, he paused for a moment. It does nothing. Yeah. Take it out. I don't care about his pauses.
Yeah, I think it helps to see it in someone else's writing. So the more exposure authors, especially new authors, can get at each other's writing, maybe like doing a manuscript swap or something, you can start to see what's the problems in their writing, and then maybe kind of reflect on your own writing, and then get ideas for what you can do instead. And do that while you're reading. Like, stop and notice what you like about the writing that you're reading, what you're enjoying, what's finding fun, and where do your eyes start to glaze over, or you start to kind of lose focus as you're reading. And you're like, well, I don't remember what the last few pages were because I just kind of mentally blocked it out to get to the fun stuff next.
Pick up your favorite book, read it again, and figure out why it's your favorite. What makes it so good? Yes, Leo.
Leo says, the writer paused to drive their editors up a wall. Yeah. Oh, well, that's lovely. I heard that there's a Hemingway app. Some people have tried that and enjoyed it.
Free, or it
and the point of it is to make your writing more concise, like Hemingway, and to the point. And that's, again, a lot of what we do is trying to come at this manuscript and to make it more concise and get to the fun stuff.
Drive the action. That's another way to say that.
Yes. Yeah. I've been using ProWriting Aid. I use it a lot in the final stage of the editing. A number of my clients in the past, I don't know, six months to a year, they've wanted only one editing pass. That's a lot of pressure, to find every last mistake in one editing pass, but that's what they want. They're on a deadline. So they want their line editing, their copy editing. If I see anything developmental, slap a note on that too. But they want it as close to perfect as they can get. They want that manuscript back. They're going to go over my suggestions, send it back, and then I'll just do like a quick scroll through. And at that point, that's when I'll run my ProWriting Aid to see what final things the ProWriting Aid software will catch. And I'll use about maybe 10% of it. But 10% of like 400 spelling and grammar suggestions, that's still 40 things it found. That it might be a the that my eyes kind of glanced over and the author's eyes glanced over, even though we looked at the manuscript, a whole bunch of times. They might have looked at it, read through it 5 times before it came to me. But we both, your brain just kind of shoves it together. So there'll be some suggestions that I will accept and that I'll be very grateful to ProWriting Aid for having suggested. But again, you'll need to kind of read through, consider what ProWriting Aid's saying, and a lot of them you let go.
It's additional time. And you should think about also that for every 10 mistakes I catch, the law of averages and the industry says that I will miss one. So if I corrected your manuscript 16,000 times, I missed 1,600 things. And
yes,
and that's a good average.
Right. And that's another reason why 2 editing passes, a lot of editors really prefer that, and authors too. And they want 2 full read throughs. And maybe you're looking at your manuscript and that's what it needs. Maybe you're hoping for 1 and you get it back from your editor and you're like, whoa, actually might need another one. And that's fine. Just let your editor know. We'll talk about it. We'll work it through. And I'm sure your editor will be able to figure out their schedule and just keep moving forward, whatever's the best for the book.
Yeah, I'm going to pull this up too. Corey Gilliam saying, don't forget all the beta readers that skipped over it. So there's always going to be mistakes left over when you hit publish, pulling things down. My very first book that I published on, I think it was page 2 or 3. It was a saying that my mom always says constantly every time, and I wanted to make sure I had that in there because it was important to me. And I get the book, it's all published, and it's live on Amazon, and I'm crying, and she's crying, and we're all happy. And I happen to just flip it to that 3rd page, looking for her quote, and I'm like, look, did you recognize that I put this in here? And there was a word missing out of the quote, because it's a quote that we both know so intimately that my brain knew what it was supposed to say.
Yes.
But that's not what was actually written there.
Yeah.
So there will always be mistakes, and you get it as close to perfect as you can. And then and sally forth, write the next one. If readers are messaging you and they're like, hey, I found these 2 spelling mistakes, note them down. When you get like 50 or 100 of those buggers, then update the file, because otherwise you're going to be updating the file every other day or 1 or 2 little hairs of mistakes.
Ken says, edit once, curse twice. And Corey Gillum mentions Jurassic Park still has a ton of problems. And it's true. I read it the other day. I'm like, found a couple. But yeah, last night I did something that, I recommend no author or editor ever do. I checked Amazon reviews.
Don't do that.
Last night. So before I went to bed. So I was like, this book that, that we published a year or 2 ago has over 500 reviews, and they're almost all 5 stars. This is going to be great. And then I'm like, I should just double check those 1 stars just in case there's anything I need to learn as the editor, about how to make this book by the same author better. And then one of the reviews mentioned the editing and said, you need to hire a competent editor. Oh, that hurt. And then I read what he kind of pointed out, the pedant, and I'm like, I actually thought about that when I was editing, but we decided not to. So in the middle of the night, I wake up, and where does my brain go to? It goes back to that Amazon review, and I'm kind of mentally arguing with him and just losing sleep over it. And it's really sad and pointless. But that's just, you make artistic decisions, you make professional decisions, and the book, it means a lot. Like, it's personal to the author, it's personal to the editor, it's personal to all of us, but it's also personal to the fans, right? So that's why we're doing what we're doing, is because the fans love your book, or they're reading your book anyway, and we want to make them happy. We want to entertain them, even the pedants. And guess what? I am too, right? That's why I do this job, is because I really care about words and grammar and spelling and stuff. So I get where this guy's coming from. But yeah, don't read Amazon reviews.
But you can't please everyone. Actually, I had one of my authors just went live. And he asked me in an email about, okay, brain, you've been thinking about this all day. Plot armor. He got a 3-star, and the reader stopped reading because they realized that he was going to keep wrapping the main character in plot armor. And I'm like, okay, so what is plot armor? I mean, he's the main character. Like, of course he's going to be wrapped in plot and not, die. So that's something, I don't know, maybe for another show where we can dig in, or dig in on that, because like the concept of that just kind of like made me go, what? I told him to ignore it. I'm like, you're not going to please everyone. It was a 3-star, but yeah, so that's something that.
Yeah, that's an argument made by George R.R. Martin for his books, and why he, kills off characters, is because he wants actual tension to be there. He wants there to be the actual potential that this character that you love will die. But on the other hand of that, if all your favorite characters keep on getting killed off, then you start to get like emotionally numb, and you don't want to like attach to anyone because they just keep dying, and your heart keeps on getting pierced and shredded, and it's just sad.
I told him, like, he's the main character. Like, the whole story is from his perspective. There is no other perspective. It's his perspective.
You just
So
kill
I'm like,
end a story like that. Like you're in the middle with nothing resolved and your main character is dead and the book is over.
So I'm just like, yeah, book one, main character dies. All the build up for nothing. So I just told him to ignore it. But I thought the idea of this whole like plot armor phenomenon going on, apparently, would be something interesting to talk about.
Rick Partlow says, if my favorite characters die, I stop reading. I mean, there's the honest truth. And Corey says, plot armor is a special kind of chainmail, like Mithril from Lord of the Rings.
I think our viewers are giving that plot armor thing a giant middle finger. That's what they're nicely middle fingering. So yeah, if you're listening, author, there you go. It's fine.
Well, speaking of, Ellen, you're going to say something.
I was.
Plot armor.
Was I?
Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe.
I think I already said it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Well, speaking of huge successes, we've all been cheering on Brandon Sanderson from Facebook from afar. We're very excited about his Kickstarter. He is currently has the most successful Kickstarter ever. I opened up my inbox on, was it Monday? And I had an email from Brandon because I'm on his newsletter, and he said he had a confession to make. And if you clicked on the email, which took you to YouTube and the 16-minute video there where he shares his confession, he confessed he's been a very naughty boy. He's been hiding a secret, and his secret is that he's written 4 extra books for his fans. And his fans responded by throwing money at him.
As I, I guess that's a thing that can happen. You get money thrown at you. And
it's currently at over $21 million working on, no. Oh, it's still, okay, $21.8 million. And he has 27 days to go, over 90,000 backers. So what does that tell you? So he did this all on his own. He doesn't have a publisher that has put up this Kickstarter. He's publishing his books himself. He's getting them out to the fans himself. So ladies who are in this kind of indie publishing sphere, but also working with indie publishers, what's your take on what this could mean for self-publishing authors in the indie publishing space?
I've seen authors do this and do it as a model and do it successfully. Not that successfully, obviously, but I know authors that kickstart their books and pay for editing and everything else that way. Different,
my biggest thing for the indie, don't think that you're gonna Brandon Sanderson it. You're not gonna put it out there, do a bunch of advertising and whatnot, and rake in $26 million with 90,000 backers. It's just
manage your expectations.
That's not gonna happen. Like he's already super famous, right? He's already with the publishers. He's already got all these books. So of course he can, I have a secret and here's, surprise. And then everyone's like, yes, more Brandon Sanderson. Like it. Yeah. And he's doing it on his own. So people are supporting him with that. And they want the books. It's one of those things, like, don't go in thinking that you're going to make even $1 million. Like be realistic on it. Really know like what your budget needs to be, and then
even the authors that I'm talking about already had at least some kind of fan base to start with. I mean, I couldn't start a Kickstarter today and fund a novel because
like if my happy little blue butt went out there and was like, I got secret 4 books, like I might get like 2 backers.
But he'd get me and Lauren.
That's what I say. I might get 2 backers, but I'm completely unknown. The indie sphere, we are all mostly completely unknown. Yeah. So, it's nose to the grindstone still.
Yeah, Patricia says 20 plus years of groundwork equals an overnight success. Yeah. Definitely, when I look at those numbers, I go, there's a hunger there for good writing and books, right? Books as entertainment is not dead. It's not over. We haven't just given it all over to Netflix or VR, which is coming. People still want actual books. They want good books. They want good stories. And, he's built over those 20 years a following of people who connect with his stories, connect with his characters, and they want more of that. And they're willing to go on Kickstarter to fund him to make it happen. So the potential is there. I also think it's a big, hello to the publishing worlds, that publishing is shifting, and that's
the biggest thing.
Yeah. However, like you pointed out, Kalene and Ellen, he's already established himself with the traditional publishing world and gotten that fan base. So it's not like some new author can just jump into that. He already has a base that he's using to launch this Kickstarter off of, which is exciting, but it should give everyone like a heads up, including the traditional publishing world.
Yeah.
For me, it's just showing that there are different ways of this whole concept of publishing that are coming about. Even in the indie world, that is changing, that is shifting. I'm thinking a little bit deeper. You work yourself, you get your books out, you get your good books out. You get good editing, you have great covers, you have, characters and storylines that people want to read. And then, maybe, you have this sideline project that you have going on, and then you're building up your audience, and then you can do a Kickstarter where it's like, hey, brand new series coming out, but it's a thing where you kind of need that base. And for big publishers out there, who have all these great names of authors, they're probably going to look at Sanderson and go, I could write another series, get funding through Kickstarter. Maybe my fans would support me that way, so yeah.
So we might see more traditionally published authors starting to do their own thing.
Oh, they're definitely going to be tapping into the notion of what us indies have been doing for the last however long we've been doing this.
Yeah, and Ken says on the flip side, a lot of George R. R. Martin's fans and Rothfuss's fans are going to Sanderson's base and reading his books because he's finishing series. He's finishing books. Also, Facebook user says, I love the idea of getting a secret book from a favorite author. When I read Girl with All the Gifts, I didn't know what it was about. I love the surprise when the first hook landed. Ooh. And DFM Game says he has transcendent publishers. People want to read his books. They don't care about the publishers he's attached to. That's the thing that separates him from other authors.
I think that's probably true of most authors. Nobody really cares who's publishing you. They just know the author's name. I mean, how many of you know? Well, I think that's not a good way to approach it. But yeah, I mean, you don't care who the publisher is when you pick up a book and buy it. You care who the author is.
Honestly, until I, what was this, like 5, 6 years ago, got into more heavily writing and publishing myself. No, yes, 7 years ago. No, 8. However long time ago. I didn't even know that the big 5 publisher was a thing. Like, people started using those terms in our circle, and I'm just like, who? And they're like, yeah, Random House and Tantor. I still don't even know their damn names. So yeah, like, people care about the author and their work.
I do like Tor.
There it is.
Daw and Bane. Right?
Yeah, but they're not big 5.
No, they're not. But I know. Oh, sorry, I have got a button for Bane. Looking around for it. But yeah, here it is. Yeah, I know. Like, if I'm at a used bookstore or a library or Barnes and Nobles or someplace, and I see Tor, Daw, or Bane, it's probably going to be a good book, and I'm probably going to love it because they just publish quality stuff. So that's nice if you don't recognize the author's name, and you're in a situation where you want to buy something, you want to pick something up, but you do know Tor, right? And you do trust them and trust their judgment. Rick points out that a very large portion of the indie genre authors have a huge percentage of their audience in Kindle Unlimited. And those readers strike me as unwilling to throw money at authors. Books come with their subscription.
That's probably true, Partlow, but everybody has a favorite author.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, George Solari, we had him at the end of last season. He's doing an email subscription list. You can subscribe to his newsletter and get these emails that drip throughout the week. And the thing he's teaching us through his newsletters right now is building a brand for yourself that connects with the readers so that they feel part of your community and they feel a real deep connection with your characters and your story. So they'll keep coming back for more. He's explaining how to do that in some different ways. And I think that's what Sanderson's kind of tapped into. Because I saw that email from him and I like immediately clicked it. And then I immediately clicked on the YouTube link and then went to his Kickstarter too to check it all out.
See, that's the thing. Even on a small scale, if you keep working and you find your rabid readers and you find the ones who are getting the pre-orders, who are willing to wait for the book and pay ahead of time, then going ahead and doing a Kickstarter or something like this, those are the people that you are going to be going after. And every author can find them to different degrees, whether it's Sanderson's millions of degrees or it's a smaller author and you're just doing a Kickstarter for $1,000, that $1,000, depending on the length of your book, could pay for your cover and your editing. It really could. Could also pay for also advertising, depending on where you got your cover, who your editor is and what kind of editing you got. $1,000 could pay for it all. So you don't need millions of dollars, but you do need a good work ethic to keep going and pursue good words and keep your readers happy, and they'll come back for you.
If you write it, they will come.
Sort of. Because you don't just put it out there and hope that they'll find it. But
it could happen.
I know it definitely could, but don't bank on it.
Right.
Patricia says, thinking of it in terms of about 1,000 people willing to spend $50 on your books / associated projects a year, adjusting that accordingly. Yeah, so you don't need a whole lot of fans to keep going just to get that base started. But you do need to keep coming back with more content, more stories, more writing. Keep on entertaining the troops. Speaking of entertaining the troops, I came across a fun excerpt from a fantasy novel written by an author who thinks he made up doors. Does anyone to hear from this author who has made up doors? Kalene, how's your voice feeling? Yeah, I'd love that.
Hang on, let me get it open.
We want to hear this, guys, don't we? We want to hear Kalene read this fantasy excerpt.
With my
and then we'll give our editor's take at the end of it, and love to hear your take too. This was put up as satire on the blog McSweeney's Internet Tendency. This is written by James Folta for a good laugh. It's called Chapter 9, Interloper in the Keep of the King by James Folta.
Gurf felt a heavy weight on his shoulders. Perhaps it was just the dwarven wool cloak he wore, or perhaps it was his responsibility as a sergeant in the King's Guard, about to lead troops into the wilds. Gurf gently fingered the scars on his face, earned in the 7th Elven War. Soon there would be an 8th. Gurf surveyed his spare room. His soldier's kit lay against the wall next to the door. A covering for the wall's door hole made of about 10 wooden slabs bound with metal bands. Such objects were common, and not just a king's luxury. They were well known, even to a ranger like Gurf. Opposite was a window facing the desolate canals, where the low-born farmed shrimp and marsh grasses. The window was similar to the exit hole he had just examined, but it wasn't for leaving out of, like a door. It was for looking out of. Suddenly, a dragon fire message slid into his room from under those wood slabs, which stopped a bit before they reached the floor, covering almost all of the hole. The wall's hole could be made bigger if the wooden piece were to be moved sideways, or more precisely, swivel sideways. That's a door, Gerf thought, about the wooden slabbed hole covering. But before he could open the message, the rectangle in the wall, which was about as tall as he was, started moving in its unique pivoting way, and moving fast. Someone on the other side had pushed hard on the rectangular door, and it hit the stone wall, but did not fall down. A grenade skittered over Gerf's feet and exploded, temporarily blinding him and filling his nose with the odious stench of evening tide mushroom. As if reading his thoughts, a voice cut through the smoke like a Pandrosian iron cutlass slices through sea dragon flesh, which is to say, it cut very easily. If I might offer some advice, Sergeant Gerf of the King's Guard, don't breathe too deeply. The voice was high-pitched and seemed to come from every part of the room at once, in front of him, behind him, from the room beyond, unobstructed because that wooden plate-like object known as a door had been moved. Now, the wall was like a bag that had been opened on both sides, essentially a tube. There was a temporary but intentional hole, and the sound was coming through that whole tube. "Who goes there?" hissed Gerf, drawing his ranger's blade. "Don't play coy, Sergeant Gerf, son of Gorf. From your time on our prison ships, you should know an elven voice when you hear one." Through the smoke emerged a trim and proud figure, a wood elf, wearing a minotaur skin hat cocked at a jaunty angle. Gerf clenched the hilt of his blade, like someone might grip the round metal protrusion often found attached to the wall openers he was just thinking about. "Surprised to see me south of the wall, I see, said the elf. "There are more ways to bypass a wall, my friend, than just through doors, like bigger windows, but where the middle part of the window rests almost on the ground, and you can move that part out of the way so your whole body and also other objects can go through." "Yes, I know them," spat Gerf. "One of the many common luxuries of our land, but not one that I expect an outsider like you would truly appreciate." Gerf rapped his blade against the floor and lunged at the elf, but his body refused. It moved as if stuck in thickened cyclops milk. That is, very slowly. The elf grinned fiendishly. "Evening tide mushroom can swivel sideways pivot, a wooden whole rectangle in the mind, like a door. That thing we were talking about just now? Now sleepiness can get into your consciousness, similar to how I came into this room." Gerf collapsed, his sword clattering uselessly against the stone. The elf's trick had opened a door in the metaphorical wall, dividing sleep and awake, sending Gerf tumbling through a walking-through spot in his mind. Gerf's last pleading thought was the hope that tomorrow he would have his revenge on this elf, and that he could once more taste that new delicacy he'd come to love, baked dough of flour and water, known simply as bread.
Yay.
It was good. I like that. That was funny.
That I was trying so hard not to laugh through that whole thing. But that, yeah, do you have, like, y'all do that?
Well,
I mean,
it's not
not
just
as-
y'all, it's also me. I mean, like, there's just a tendency to put in useless details and, like, note stuff that we all know, right? And that's the problem, right, Ellen?
It
It's
is
like,
a problem.
yeah, explain.
It's stage direction. Okay. You and I know that when we're having a conversation, we're looking at each other. Or if we're not looking at each other, maybe you mention it once. There's just a huge body of experience that every human being understands on a level so basic that they don't need to describe it. Like that when you walk, you put one foot in front of the other, or that you breathe all day long and don't need to talk about it. I mean, I'm breathing, you're breathing. If we stop breathing, maybe that's interesting. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But breathing is not interesting. Brushing your teeth. You don't have to describe the mechanics of teeth brushing because hopefully most of us know how that works. And we all know how we get ready in the morning and put on our pants one leg at a time. These are things that don't need to be detailed. It's just trivia that's dragging down minutia, that's dragging your story down like chains around the ankles as you fall through a hole closer made of slabbed wood. And, yeah, just stop. Nobody cares. Just give your reader some credit for knowing things that you know, because they do.
The most common one I see, and this is in almost every single manuscript I get. He reached out with his hand and opened the door. Sometimes he reached out with his hand and grabbed the doorknob, turning it, and opened the door.
Wow.
We don't need all of that. We
don't need any of that.
But what if I want to say that he left the room?
He left.
He left the room.
We can fill in the detail because we all know how you leave a room.
Are you sure?
Walk, and you're breathing as you walk, and you go to the door, and you open the door, and you go out the door, and you close the door. We all know this.
All right. So delete, and then what's my next sentence then?
Get back into the action.
There you go.
Find something that drives your story, or enriches your character, or is of interest in and of itself. I mean, tell a dirty joke. I don't care, but stop walking across the room, opening doors, breathing, nodding, blinking, pausing, hesitating, sitting, looking.
And another one, one that I just, I think it was yesterday that I read through. Maybe it was today. I don't know. My days are all blurred. Anyway, it's from the perspective of, this is the perspective of the character. Okay. She watched him.
Oh God.
Enter what he did. Okay. Delete. She watched and just, he did the thing, because we're in the perspective of the character. I don't need to know that she watched because we're watching with her.
No, not if you tell us that she watched, because you just pushed you just pushed us out of who your character
said. And if you do the she watched, he watched, she knew, he knew, she felt, he felt, then we no longer see, feel, heal, know, blah. Only they do.
We're not experiencing it with your character. We're being told about it. It's the difference between kissing your girlfriend and kissing your sister.
Or if it's Star Wars, could be both. It could be both.
You had to go there.
But yeah, if you feel yourself like you know the perspective is from character A, and character A is watching character B. The reader does not need to be told that character A is watching character B. We just need to know what character B is doing.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're already with character A.
If it's not needed in the story, then cut it. So that could be a paragraph. It could be a scene. It could be a sentence. It could be a word. But if it's not needed, cut it. And one of those examples is the stage directions that we're talking about. Or if it's redundant, right? If the reader just knows the thing, you don't need to remind them of the thing that's present there.
Let me read you some of my often copy-pasted author notes. Okay. Saying she, he could see, so-and-so watched or saw or heard or knew, and similar phrases is filtering. It creates separation between the reader and your character when what you need is for the reader to be right there in your character's head. Let them see through your character's eyes rather than telling them what the character sees. Okay. How many variations of this do you think I have? Saying watched is putting a filter between the action and the reader, a degree of separation. The reader is no longer in the thick of the action. He's watching it through a third person's eyes at a distance. You, generally speaking, want the reader to be right in there, excited, anticipating, and part of it. Oh, here's the very next one. And it's really, truly, cross my heart and hope to die, not necessary to come up with action beats to replace dialogue tags. They're clutter, breaking the conversational flow. The occasional tag or beat to keep the reader oriented is all you need. Oh, and what's this? There's a vast body of common experience that does not need to be described. Things like how someone brushes their teeth or walking from the car to the front door. Unless something is unusual, exceptional, or otherwise of interest, you don't need to explain it. Yes. Readers know how a medicine cabinet works. Explaining it to them insults their intelligence, and worse, isn't interesting. So, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Yeah, and again, if you know this is something you do, which when I'm writing, it's something I tend to do too. Then take a look at the writing that you're reading and see what they do instead. And sometimes it's a matter of cutting out, but sometimes it's a matter of finding the exciting things that you like that they write, and then writing more exciting things in your own writing too, like getting to the next cool thing. And that could be a joke, that could be a question or a reflection, or something sad, or the next bit of action that you want to get to.
And I know this is really mean, but I'm gonna go there anyway. Y'all, when you do all this filtering and stage directing crap, you're not expressing yourself and finding your voice and telling a story. You sound just like everybody else who doesn't know how to write a book. I mean, so much of what we see sounds exactly the same. You couldn't tell author A from author B from author C because they're all doing the same filtering and stage directing and other problems. Hey,
Leo.
if that's what floats your boat, Leo, you torment all the editors you want. But I'm telling you, filtering that way and all that stage direction just brands you as, kind of inexperienced, kind of a rookie, an amateur. And that's not what you want. You want to tell a good story.
Yeah, instead of blinking and pausing and all of that,
Grimacing,
get into the character's head. Like if you need to have, I call them slow-mo moments. If you need to have a slow-mo moment, give me something to gnaw on that pushes either character or plot.
Yeah. But in the appropriate place.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah. James McCormick says, when I did screenplay coverage for a living, I was amazed at how every bad script sounded exactly the same. They all had the same generic voice. Yes.
See, it's not just me. I'm not making this up.
No, but we're excited for you. And in the Keystroke group, you'll find a lot of authors who are on the same writer's journey with you. If you have questions about how to improve your writing, you can go ahead and post it in the group. Maybe post a short sample of the thing that you have a question about that you want some help on, and people would love to jump on and help you take the next step, help you think about your writing and get better.
And if you're embarrassed to post it, send us a message.
True.
We're, but let us know, because if we're not friends, we won't see it necessarily right away. So, but we're here.
Yeah, there's a lot of messages I miss because
you didn't know they were there. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, next up in the season, we do have Kevin J. Anderson coming on the show on the 18th. And he's going to be talking about some publishing news that he has, books coming out. And also we're going to ask him, of course, about Dune and working with Hollywood and how fun that was. And also he's a good friend of Brandon Sanderson. So maybe we'll have some updates as that Kickstarter continues and we can hear it from his good friend, Kevin. And then we have Ivy Gray of Word Rake on April 1st. Okay, Word Rake is an editing tool that someone in the chat mentioned that they use actually earlier. I think it might have been Rick. But anyway, Ivy Gray is coming on to explain what that is and how to use it. And we're very excited to hear from her. And then Tara Allred, she's a writing instructor and she's won a bunch of awards as an author too. She's going to come on and help us with our writing. And then Jeff Haskell, he is a superhero author and he's getting into a new genre. He's getting into military sci-fi. He's publishing a new series and he's having a launch in April. So he's going to come on and talk to us about all of that. And you'll notice that our shows are going to be every other Friday. And that's, we love you guys. We want to produce great content for you, bring on great guests, and also balance life and family and everything. So we're going to put our best foot and effort into these shows as they come up. And we will see you here every other Friday in the new year, and love to see your comments and questions and love seeing your faces on the chat.
And if anyone has any show ideas, things that they think that maybe we could talk about on the show, like this plot armor thing, I really want to dig more into that because it seems like a phenomenon that's coming up recently. And don't forget to Keystroke Coffee because everyone needs the coffee. Please don't do like Kalene, who lost half her taste for coffee and it tasted like burnt, like grilled cheese for a while. It was really sad.
Oh no. I'm sorry.
And also, our short flash fiction thing. You've still got a few more days. March 7th, I believe, is the cutoff date. So you have through March 7th to get those in for the great Tony, I forget her last name.
Weiskopf,
thank you. Tony Weiskopf.
Of Baen
top
Books.
Yes.
She's going to be judging this
the top three
flash fiction story writing competition. And she'll be looking at the top 3. So that's a chance to get that #1 editor at Baen Books to look at your writing. That's exciting.
And exactly 1,000. If it's 1,001 words, it will be tossed out. 1,000 words or less. Totally serious about that. Alrighty. For everyone out there, thank you for joining us. And thank you for being here. We love you. And yeah, we're excited for our 4th season under the 7th season of Keystroke Medium. I totally forgot how to do my outro. All right, well, be sure to check us out next week where we're going to talk about more reading, writing, and everything in between right here on Keystroke Mediums, The Writer's Journey.